I'll be filming this over several evenings, and most of the time, in all likelihood, it will be after dark, so forgive the funky lights and stuff, but wanted to try to capture this while I was going through this process. To start out, I've taken some really thick file folders and I have cut them 2¼ inch by 4 inches. And I've noted that here, and I've converted that into centimeters. And what I'll do is I'll pop this in the description box below the video so that no matter which side of the pond you're on, you can get these measurements fairly easily. So this will be the base of my cover. I've then cut my favorite this year, Christmas fabric. I actually went looking for my favorite Tim Holtz Christmas paper from several years ago, looking for someone who had it, and it is nowhere to be found. It was called Merriment, and didn't I come across Merriment fabrics? You may recognize several of these designs from older Tim Holtz paper. They're just fabulous. And I have taken my favorites and I have just cut a piece, and I'll trim it a little more. I gave myself a little wiggle room so I could place it where I wanted it. I'm going to take the base and oh, my Mod Podge is stuck shut. Okay, got my big gloppy brush and I'm just going to put a really thin coat of this on there. And there we go. So I've got that stuck on, and I'm just going to trim the edges so it's only hanging over a smidge. And I'll do that for each of the small books. I've mitered the corners. Instead of cutting them straight, I put a little angle to it so that when they fold over, they'll overlap a little better. And I'm putting the tiniest little bead of my Fabri-Tac is almost out. Shake, shake, shake. My cat's looking at me like I'm nuts. Who are you talking to, Mom? Okay. And down this side. Gosh, just can't get enough of this Tim Holtz fabric. And then on the ends, I'm just putting a thin bead and an extra little glop into the corners. When I finish gluing this onto the base, this is the part where I would typically sew an image on the front if I was going to. But these fabrics are so festive and so vivid on their own that there's absolutely no need to stitch anything else on it, so I'm just going to leave it plain fabric on the front. For the inside of the cover of the micro journals, what I've done is cut little pieces of fabric, and I have cut them at 2 inches by 3 3/4, and the centimeter conversion is there. So I'm going to take each of these and envision it inside. There's the outside of the cover. Foofies everywhere. And there's the inside. And on each one, I want to do something to put a little pocket or tuck spot. So I've taken one of these over to the sewing machine and put these little Merry and Bright little pieces of cardstock in there. I just distressed it and zigzagged, and I'll be able to stick something in there. And I'm very simply going to shake my fab tack. I usually actually break open a new one when I'm doing something on camera. I did not do that this time. No, you gotta wait. You gotta wait, buddy. I'm filming. I know, I know. And there we go. And once this is good and dry, I'm just going to, I could leave it like this. If you don't sew, that's fine. You don't have to do this, but I like the effect of doing a small zigzag stitch right around the edge, just to make sure it's on there good. But that will be the cover for this one. I've gone ahead and done a zigzag stitch around the edges of all of the little covers after putting on the pockets, and I'm going to set these aside and look at making pages to fill them up. So what I've done is taken some tea-dye paper, and before I've cut any of it to be some of the pages that I'm going to put in these little micro journals, I've gotten some stencils out, and I've tried to pick out the smallest patterns that I could find on them. What I do is I put some masking tape around the bigger things, like on this, the snowflakes, and that kind of isolates the little ones so that I can do the stenciling with them. And so I just grabbed those. I made them, I think I measured that right, so once I cut them and fold them, that there'll be a present on each page. Some words, some Christmas trees, and some more words. I just wanted to start with this shot to show you guys who are so nice and think my craft space is so organized that I do make a mess while I am in the middle of all this. And if you could see the bins and boxes and carts and everything I have open across my floor in here, you would know I am indeed one of you. It is chaos. So this is where I'm at with these minis. I have, for each cover that I've made, I have the strips of stenciled tea-dyed paper that I've cut into 2-inch by 3-inch pieces. And how many do I have here? 6, 7, 8. I found some paper I had laser printed some music on for a journal. I had some extra pages I didn't use, so I thought that would be neat to put in the Christmas journals. I've got several pages that I've done some stamping on. Cardstock that's not double-sided. It's much thinner. It doesn't take up as much room. I have, these are 2 by 2 inch little snippet pieces in the collage from the Tim Holtz paper. And what I've done is just scored it and folded it like this. And with some fab tack, I will tack it there and there. My glue's almost out. I'm not going to make you watch me fight with it for the next 2 minutes, but I'll just put a dab there and there and fold these over and make little pockets then to slip stuff in. I'll just glue it at the top and bottom. And then I took several pieces of material, and this is gold glittery, kind of Christmassy, and I've also cut them into the approximate 2 by 3 inch size of the pages, and then I sewed on several of them, made a little tuck spot. This is some really neat, do I have it here? No, I think I put it away. This is actually Christmas ribbon that I found at Hobby Lobby, and it's Christmas stamps, and I've actually cut them out individually and made little pockets here, and did some tiny zigzag stitching to put in and such. Just glued a little ribbon embellishment. So the rest of the decorating I can do after I sew this together. I've put approximately 20 pages, including these other little cardstock things that I'm going to put in. You may be able to get more or less pages into your single signature at the size, depending upon how many thin sheets of tea-dyed paper you use and how many pieces of cardstock you've got in your signature. So it's going to vary. I counted and I got approximately 20. So I actually have a salad bowl, or a soup bowl rather, for each of the ones in construction, so I don't get the pieces mixed up. So I took all of the sheets. This is the 20 sheets for another, and I simply layered these the way I wanted them for this, and I lined them up as best as possible. These don't need to be exact by any means, and clipped them here. I've got my cork. This is how I poke holes in journals. Let me get my glasses so I can hit near to the middle here, and I'm going to take my awl, also known as a pokey tool in the crafting circles, and just make sure that that went through. It did. Lots of layers here. And I'm just going to put 3 holes in it and do an easy pamphlet stitch. I am not stitching this to the cover at this point. I've got my 3 holes in there. Now, I have chosen to stitch these with baker's twine. Not all baker's twine is made alike. I have, these are thinner, but they don't break. Some thin baker's twine, if you give it a good yank, you can break it. It is not made well. And others are thin like this, and they're incredibly durable. And then there's thicker baker's twine, and I like using this to put on tags as little embellishments to stick out of the page, and attachments. These are the Hobby Lobby Christmas themed twines, and there's a red one too. They come in a 3-pack, but those are much thicker, and I have a hard time sewing signatures with anything that thick. So these are the thinner, durable baker's twines that I'm using to sew the signatures. And I've just threaded the black one. I've cut this extra long because I want to attach things to it when it's finished. If you find it hard to pull your needle through, grab a little pair of pliers and give it a wiggle, and it'll come right through. The biggest challenge I have is not getting the string caught on the little tabs here while I'm sewing. I always try to come up on the other side of the middle piece. So this is on one side and that's on the other. Before I tie that knot, I just want to make sure that's nice and tight on the back. Take my needle off so I don't lose that. There's nothing that upsets Cog more than finding a needle in the rug. Okay, and I'm just going to tie that once with a good knot. Then rather than trimming them, I've got these extra long. They probably didn't need to be this long. I err on the side of caution. You can always trim it off, but you can't grow them longer. So I'm going to take, really, I had them here. I'm going to take 2 Tim Holtz medallions. You can use any charm, anything with a little bit of weight to it will work quite well. And I'm going to, just a little ways below this, hold that and just knot it there. And I like to put it through again and tie the knot several ways so that it will not come out. And I will trim that. So what I've got is a little dangle, and then for the second dangle I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to make it just a little longer than that, so they'll hang at different lengths and just kind of cascade down below the book that way. And if you want more frou-frou, more dangles, beads, charms, whatever, hanging from your book, you could very easily tie an additional string where that knot is and get it good and anchored there, and leave them long and do the same thing, and probably make as many as you wanted to embellish the bottom. Give that one more knot there. Sorry, don't mean to slide out of frame there. So I've got those, and our signature is sewed. What I'm going to do now is just go through each page and crease it down towards the middle. I'm going to do this on both sides. All that does is make sure that it doesn't try to open to the middle every time now, because you've trained it to go in a different direction. Of course, I found a mistake already. It had to be the one I'm sewing for you. Okay, I see a piece of cardstock that is upside down. I was so careful too. So what I will do for this is I will end up taking one of the other embellishments and permanently attaching that. No one will ever know it went in upside down. Usually the only thing that I ever get upside down anymore in my books are maps, and it's because I didn't take my glasses and look at it before I sewed it together. And I'll either rip that page completely out of the book, or if I notice it right after I stitch it, I will take out the stitching and restitch it right side up. So there we go. That's the inside. The next thing I'm going to do is take this piece of fabulous sparkly eyelash trim, And I'm going to find 2 pages in this about halfway through, looking for 2 tea-dyed pages with nothing too special on it. It's tea-dyed in cardstock. It doesn't have to be in the same place. I'm going to put this through with just a tiny bit hanging out the bottom, and here, and I'm going to just push it down as far as I can into the signature. So I have a loop there and a little hanging out the bottom. Like so. And the only reason I'm putting that piece in now, it's not anchored, but it will be in just a moment. And I'm going to open up my signature to the center and lay it in the cover, like so. I have gold, I don't know, it's thicker than thread but thinner than cord. So I'm not sure what to call this. I bought it more than 10 years ago. There's no label with it. I don't know what to tell you other than it's much thicker than thread. It is thinner than embroidery thread and definitely thinner than cord, but it is sturdy. I'm going to take this, and I've cut it a little over 2 feet long, and I'm just going to leave a good tail, 6-8 inches, and hold it in place right in the middle. And I'm going to push those little medallions to the side. We want to get those out of the way. And I am just going to wrap this as tight as I can get it right around the middle and the outside, creating the binding to hold it in. And what I'll do is I'm getting those little danglies out of the way, but I am actually going over my sparkly stuff in a few places just to secure it in so it is not going to fall out. I want to make sure it still hangs out, but so I'll go over one side and then the other, and I'm just going to wrap that around 4 or 5 times. So on the back, you don't have to center it quite yet. You've got, how many times? It's 4 of them. And when I'm sure, nope, make that 5. There we go. When I'm sure it's pretty tight, I am going to tie a knot there. Somewhere close to the top, doesn't have to be exact. If you wanted to make this a Christmas tree ornament, this might be a good time after you've got the knot sewed. What I would do is just take a jump ring and put it on one of these little gold strings and knot it in there, so you've got this gold string literally holding a jump ring there that you could put a hook on if you wanted to plan to hang this on a Christmas tree, or even from a wreath. Would work nicely. So now I've got 2 long strings hanging off here, and what I did next was I picked out a couple of Christmas charms. I know Tim Holtz has some of these snowflakes. These snowflakes actually came from Michael's, and I think the bells and the mittens that I've used on several of these and candy canes came from a multi-pack at Hobby Lobby. I like their Christmas charms at Hobby Lobby. It comes in one package, and there's, I don't know, 20, 30 in there. They're on a kiosk in the back of the store if you're looking for it. The thing about it is some of these Christmas ornaments, charms rather, they're not double-sided. If you flip it over on the back, they're not, and so I have picked out the ones that are double-sided. So I'm just going to pick 2 for the journal and tie one relatively tightly. Just tie it with a knot so it hangs here. and one a little bit lower. And rather than having you watch me fight through those knots and such, I'll show you one that I finished already. I did mittens and the candy cane on that. And the dangles, I made them a little longer on this one. Each one I've done comes out different. So that is how I got the binding. If you want, you can take one of the longer strings and just go around these and tie yet another knot just to secure it more and hold them tight together. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but that's how I get the bottom and the top charms in, and that is how I get the book secure inside the cover. For the closure, I just chose to make an elastic band with some jingle bells, and I put a little, it's like a pipe cleaner, but it came on a spool. And I think I found these, I found them at Walmart last year. And they have a wire in them, like a pipe cleaner. And they're very flexible, and they're very glitzy. And I picked up all the red and gold that they had on the shelves because it was inexpensive, and then I think it was half off after Christmas. And as they like to say, I backed up the truck. So for my closures for these, what I've done, and you can figure out any way to secure these shut, I cut a piece of elastic cord that is about 9 inches long. Again, that's too long. I like to go overkill so that I always have extra. And a couple inches in, I tied 3 jingle bells. Not all jingle bells are created alike. I like to pick them up in the store and make sure they jingle, because some bells don't jingle, they just clink together, but there's no little ball inside, and these jingle. So I've just taken 3. What I'm going to do is take a book, hold it there, and measure the size. I want it a little stretched, but not terribly. I'm going to tie a knot there. So the knot is in, and then I'm going to take my little trim there and knot it again. Kind of coil this around itself, hiding the knot. It's not going to hide the elastic completely. I'll even tie it again. And just trim those little ends. There we go. And that is the outside of the journal. And then at this point, all that's left to do is go back in and do the fun stuff. Gluing, attaching, making little tags. You can get as detailed or not as you want to. And I will probably think of some other things to have protrude out the top. I'm not sure about the bottom, but that's the creative fun stuff. That's the stuff we usually enjoy most doing, I think, is decorating and making each one different. And that's what's left to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this and found it useful. These are wonderful for gifts. They're great for ornaments. They're a wonderful embellishment if you are making a wreath for indoor decoration that won't be hit by the weather. And they're a fantastic idea to do other themes with when it's not Christmas. So hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me, and I will be back soon. Have a great day. Bye.